Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to talk about professors you should avoid as an undergraduate college student. So, let's get started. Alright, so as you all know, I just recently graduated in computer engineering with my master's degree, and from what I gathered, after 5 years of classes and courses in engineering, there are some things that are kind of like let you guys know and to warn you about if you are deciding to major in engineering. And this is to do with, I think, any kind of engineering or maybe any degree. But I know this is really specific for engineering in general. I thought I'd kind of give you guys a heads up if you're thinking about majoring in these courses to kind of watch out for these professors, and if they have these certain traits or characteristics or you see any of these warning signs, please avoid them at all costs. Okay, so the first thing I'd suggest is to look on a website called Ratemyprofessors. I think we all know what that is, but I'll put the link in the description box below and also probably right here on the screen. But it's called Ratemyprofessor.com or something like that, and you can type in the university that you're going to and then type in the professor that you're looking for. Now, this works mainly for, I think, freshman and sophomore students because the class sizes are really large, and so the students who take them tend to leave a review for these professors. And so that's what that is. The Rate My Professor is just a bunch of reviews from the students that take these classes. So those professors that are that teach sophomore and freshman courses generally get more feedback and at least get, a couple reviews from different students throughout the year. So definitely go and search for those, especially as a freshman and sophomore. Search for those professors and look at the ratings, see what the students say, and then see if other people said it was helpful or if it wasn't helpful, if their comments were helpful or not helpful. Take that into consideration. So if, for example, a student were to say that, oh, this professor gives us a lot of homework and the exams are really difficult and they have nothing to do with the homework, and even the lectures have nothing to do with the exams or anything like that, and then people found that helpful, well, maybe you might want to, reconsider that professor a little bit, especially if there's other options and there's other professors that you can take. However, there are professors who do really well, and then they have maybe 1 or 2 poor reviews from different students, and other students who've looked at these reviews didn't find this helpful. Well, then I would still probably go for that professor even though they got 2 bad reviews, but other people found it not helpful. They didn't really find that helpful at all because it may just be the student who didn't show up to the courses or to the classes, and so they didn't know the material, and so that's why the exam was hard or something like that. So use your own judgment when reviewing the other reviews for that professor on the website. But that would be number 1. Okay, so I thought I'd like to make another side video about the ratemyprofessors.com website and just kind of go over this real quick and kind of give a general overview as to what you can find here. So I usually like to use the app instead of this because of all the ads that are here, and it just tends to look very cluttery, messy, and then lags. But you can see here you can either choose between finding a professor, finding a school, or rating a professor. But for now, we'll just look in the search toolbox. We'll use that, and we can do, let's say, the University of California. So we can do a university there. We can do, let's say, University of California, San Diego. So we go here, and you can see at the bottom on the right, you see how the school stacks up to various schools, and then it's broken down into different categories as to why it's a 3.7 overall rating. Off to the left here are the top professors, so you can see a 5.55 for these professors. And if you go and click on this tab called School, you can look at the other professors listed that work at this university, and you can search for the department you want to be looking in. So of course we're going to be doing engineering, and here you can see the professors for engineering. We can look at this one. Let's see, this person has a 4.3 out of 5. Okay, 56% said they would take it again. A difficulty level of 3.5, which makes sense. It is a engineering professor. Engineering is just hard to begin with. So professor in engineering department, and then these are the top tags that the students have listed for each of their ratings. And if you scroll down, of the 44 student ratings, one person said it was awful, but another person said it was awesome. So one person, it kind of teeters between the two. This one awesome, this one was awesome, awesome, and then, one person said awful, and then awesome again, and then awful. So honestly, I think it depends on like the person. And this one, it's kind of maybe hard to determine if this professor is good or not, because some of them have gotten ups for those who said that were awful, and then other ones have gotten thumbs down for the ones that said this professor was, pretty good. But you can also filter these comments by the type of course that they taught. So you can just look at these different categories and then click on one of them to filter out these comments. So that way you're looking at the specific course that this professor is teaching. So you go back here, and then let's look. Okay, so that professor was like a 4.3. They got some pretty good ratings. Might take them. It is engineering, so again, any sort of material in engineering is hard. But we'll go to one that's not very good. So let's look at this person. 1.2. Okay. So a 1.2 out of 5. Level of difficulty 4.4. They didn't even have any featured ratings or any top comments. Once again, professor in engineering, and then these are the top tags. You scroll down, 53 student ratings. You can look at the different courses that they have taught, and you keep scrolling down. Awful, and this awful got 14 thumbs up. This awful got 11 thumbs up, 16 thumbs up. One person said average, but they got 72 thumbs down. So it may not be as average as what this person says. So I probably would not pay attention to this comment. And then this one was an awful, again, 14 thumbs up. Awful, awful. All of these awfuls have a lot of thumbs up, so that means all the other students or those who are reading these comments agree with these ratings. So yeah, I would probably avoid this professor. Yeah. There's a lot of signs that say, okay, try to do anything you can to not take this professor. And if it was between this one or the other one we were just looking at, I would probably go for the other one and try to avoid this guy. So yeah, that's just kind of an example of one pretty good, okay professor, and then another one that I just completely avoid. And yeah, I hope you guys like this little short clip, and let's get back to the actual video. Number 2 would be to ask around if you know anyone who's taken the professor before or who's taken a class with that professor. Ask them how they've done or how they've been, and they can really give you a good insight as to how that professor is really doing. And if you know the person closely, then you can also rely on their information that they give you, or not rely on it, or realize that, okay, this person, it's just difficult for them to understand the material, so the professor may not be as hard as what they say they are. Or vice versa, where the friend is giving you information about the professor, but they're really smart and they're really good at this material and this work, which happens a lot. Then you can say, okay, well, they say that this professor's moderate and a little difficult, well, then they must be extremely difficult. I'm not going to take them. Or they may say they're easy, well, they're probably not going to be that easy, because this person is just really good at learning the material, and they really understand the material themselves. So that doesn't help me very much. So once again, use your judgment in terms of asking your friends, asking other people, and things like that. So the next thing is more of like a warning. So if the professor, their English is not their first language, then maybe you might want to be a little careful with that. And it's not because the professor themselves aren't good at teaching or that they don't know the material. It's more so that there's that language barrier, and it's hard for not only the students to understand what the professor is saying, but also for the professor to understand what the students are asking. So that language barrier really makes the classes that much more difficult. And so understanding those complex concepts in those different classes, you really need to understand every word for word. And if you don't understand what the professor is saying, and you try to ask them, but then they don't really understand what you're asking, once again, makes it that much harder and much more complicated than it needs to be. So if you can, try to find someone whose native language is English, which with engineering, a lot of them are not. English is not their first language. So you may just have to deal with it. A lot of the times that's what I had to do with most of my classes, especially junior, senior year, when my focus got more and more specific in a certain area and the classes got smaller and smaller. The professors became, there weren't very many options in terms of which professor I could choose, and I had to just kind of deal with whatever professor I got, because there was only that one professor teaching that one course and I had to take that course. So you just kind of have to suck it up at times. But for freshman, sophomore, definitely look around, see if there's any other professors whose first language is English. So that's one other thing to look out for. And then another warning sign is if they do not have any sort of structure in the syllabus, or if they don't even have a core syllabus, that is a huge red flag. Please try anything you can to not be in that class, because that just tells you that the professor does not have any sort of organization or any sort of, plan for that semester. And they just kind of go, homework by homework and assignment by assignment. And I had that professor in one of my courses, and it was awful. So he didn't have any structure to his class. His course syllabus was just very vague and hard to understand. I had to stick with him because I think he was the only professor at the time. And I think this was for programming 2. He just kind of gave us these assignments and didn't really go over it in the lectures. And the assignments were like these large programs, and we had to go through different libraries, different directories within the libraries, and change, the headers of different C files and all these different things. We had just learned Programming 1, Beginner, Intro to Programming, and we had no idea what the heck was going on. The worst part was that he was saying that it was super easy and that he didn't understand why we couldn't get that homework done. So that's another thing. If he starts blaming you for that, or blaming the students for your lack of work or lack of effort, and all of the students are trying, then that's another red flag. Please get out of there as fast as you can. But luckily, I managed to pass that course only because of the TA. The TA was the one who basically did the homework for me, or they kind of held my hand in terms of executing the commands and finding the different areas in the files where you need to, run a command and write certain code in this other file, and then, do the make file for the whole program. If it weren't for that TA, I would have failed that class, and I know for a fact that I would have had to have retaken it that summer or the next semester, because he was a very bad professor, and I avoided him for the rest of my degree. And I think this was sophomore year, so it was shocking that he was that hard on us students, because we just learned programming I think a semester or two before that, and he just gives us this advanced type programming with all these different files and functions, and we didn't even know what a function was. I mean, we barely knew what a function was, and it may have been bad for us because the professor who taught us Intro to Programming, they may not have really taught us the material that they should have. So maybe it was us and we should have known more than what we did. But even then, the professor kind of blamed us for not understanding the material, and he let a lot of us fail. So that's the last thing, is probably if they don't have any structure, and they just are kind of willy-nilly about everything, okay, we're gonna go do this assignment, or they just make up assignments as they go along, that is a big warning sign. Please leave as fast as you can. But if you can't, well, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. You're just gonna have to suck it up and just deal with it. But I hope you'll pass if you do have that kind of professor. I think that's it. Those are the main warning signs that you'd want to look out for, and the main tips that I have in terms of determining if this professor is good or not. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, or if you guys like this video, I just kind of thought about it as I went along. And if you did find it useful, or if there's any other tips or any other warnings that you guys know of that I didn't mention, please let me know in the comment section down below. And if you have any other suggestions for future videos or any other ideas, please also let me know. And yeah, if you guys like this video, please like, subscribe, share, and thanks for watching. Bye.